right, hello, Austin. So it's great to be here, and I'm going to talk about something that's not quite as fast-paced as Formula One. It's something that we know as bureaucracy. And when I was in Italy, actually one of my Italian friends said it best, bureaucrazy. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this, but in specific, government innovation, which is not an oxymoron anymore, because we're now at a point in time where government agencies can be innovative. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my vision for that. And I think we're a little bit ahead on there. We'll go back a bit. So when we think of traditional participation, we think of things like picking up trash on the side of the road. We think of things like sitting in a council meeting for aimless hours waiting to voice our opinion. We think about things like paying our speeding tickets, which in fact is a form of civic participation. Now, a few years ago, I set out with the Persuasive Technology Lab at Stanford University to try to crack this mystery in government. We wanted to do something to encourage more than just participation. We wanted to encourage engagement in the process. And that we realized in this process, there's something that's missing. There's something that government agencies are not tapping. That's incredibly important. It's something that each of you have, and that each of you have used to change the world. It's your knowledge. It's your ideas. It's your suggestions. It's your own expertise in whatever field you may be in. And this is something that has the ability in a government setting to revolutionize the way that governments operate. And it's a very exciting time, and it's a very exciting place. And so when we went down this path with Stanford, the question was, what model can we use in government to make it more innovative? It's a very difficult question. And so we looked to the private sector. We said, what is the private sector doing differently that is making it more innovative? And the answer was open innovation. And open innovation as a model is the ability of a company, typically, to tap their customers, their employees, to drive innovation internally. It may be the development of a new product. It may be research and development of new things, new marketing trends. There's a lot of different uses for this technology. And there's a lot of companies that are utilizing it. And so this was the model that we sought after to tap citizen ideas and citizen suggestions. And so now let's look at an example of how it's used in the private sector. So some of our biggest challenges as humans is done through open innovation, and it's solved through open innovation. We think of the X Prize for the Space Challenge. It was launched in 1999, and in 2004 there was a winner. We had our first private spacecraft that reached the threshold, the altitude for the X Prize, $10 million prize. So this is the oil spill cleanup. There's tons of challenges as humans that we are faced with in this day and age, and we have to look to creative solutions to solve them. And this is not a crowd of experts. This is a crowd of normal people that can participate, that can share their ideas and their suggestions. So government has problems too. Unfortunately, all too well, I know this, being a former city manager myself, we are faced with more problems than ever before. We are in a significant economic downturn. We are spending more than we are bringing in. And it poses a lot of challenges within a government agency. And so the traditional tool set that we use as government to solve our challenges is actually something you probably all have in your kitchen drawer, or at least I do. Scissors. We cut our budgets to solve our problems. Now, I'm not a rocket scientist, and I'm not an accountant by trade, but cutting things in government agencies only dilutes the problem. Because what happens the following year? We cut again. And the next year, we cut again. And so forth. We continue to do the same thing over and over again, and we're expecting different results. So this is what I would call insanity, but it's something that we call governance. And this model needs to be changed. No longer can we cut budgets and expect things to change. We must deal with problems head on. We must find a new model to tap citizens, to tap their expertise, and to deal with these. And so that model looks a little bit like this. So you all have something that you can donate to an agency. An agency can say, this is our challenge. And you can request and solicit feedback, just like X Prize, to process these donated ideas by constituents and turn them into a more actionable state. Imagine building social networks around our problems and using the collective cognitive surplus of our citizens to address some of our greatest problems with government agencies. We've seen that this has worked before. It's been proven that it's worked before in private sector. And it's also been proven within a government setting, being the city of Manor, Texas, that this technology can work and it can solve problems. But there's another very important aspect of this technology that's a lot of times left out. And this is not something I typically get a lot of applause in a government conference for. It's the gaming aspect. And this is the fundamental question of, does gaming have a place in government? And it does, because what is going to encourage a citizen to participate and to take that chunk of time and donate it for a greater, more intellectual cause within an agency? Well, you have to incentivize it. We're not going to do things for no reason at all. If any of you play Farmville, you're not just doing it because you get a kick out of farming virtual crops. You get rewards. You level up. I'm not saying that citizens should level up within an agency. I'd be at level 20 or so. But I'm saying that we need to look at creative ways to engage citizens. And so using open innovation as a model, we can encourage and we can persuade certain behaviors. So what I mean is in Manor, Texas, we used a virtual currency. And we rewarded individuals various quantities of this virtual currency that we called InnoBucks based on the activities that they did on the site. So if someone submitted an idea, they got 5,000 InnoBucks. If they voted on someone else's idea, they got 150 InnoBucks. If their idea was implemented, they got 300,000 InnoBucks. And you have all this virtual currency, so the question is, what can you do with it? Well, you can trade it in for tangible goods. So in Manor's case, you could be mayor for a day. You could have a ride-out with the chief of police. You could buy some gift certificate that had been donated by a restaurant. So there's a variety of different things that you could do. But the best thing about the model is that we could change the amount of InnoBucks that citizens would receive to persuade different behavior. So 1 month, we may have a low submission point of ideas, and you could double the amount of InnoBucks that a citizen would receive to thus encourage them and persuade them to submit ideas. There's a reason why we check into Foursquare and Gowalla on our phones. We want to be mayor. We want to have this intellectual challenge. We want to say that we've accomplished something. We want to earn a badge. And these same principles can be applied in a governance setting. Government doesn't have to be bureaucratic. It can be fun. And there's a reason why this fun theory works. It's because we use it to solve our other problems. X Prize doesn't just put up something and say, okay, have at it. We're not going to give you anything. They make it a fun process. They make it a competitive process. And they pull on the typical psychological triggers of human beings to accomplish great results. So we're at a place in time where we're forced with a decision. The typical decision that we make is that we cut back. And we as citizens allow our government agencies to do this. But we can no longer do this. We can no longer say that this is an option, because it's not. We have to think outside of the box. And we have to do something bold, something big, right here, right now. That's the theme of this conference. Because this model is no longer working. And so leveraging open innovation, making the process fun, building relationships with constituents, and leveraging technology to build this bridge is the way that we get started. Now, it's not going to be an easy path. It's a very, very difficult cultural thing to do within a government setting. But it is possible, and it is scalable. New York City announced that they have an internal crowdsourcing platform for their constituents, their employees, to submit ideas on what the city can do to increase efficiency and to cut cost. So I believe that they're slightly larger than Manor, Texas, the last time I counted. But the principle is that this technology could be scaled. Instead of looking at problems, diluting problems by saying we'll deal with it next year, we need to look at creative ways to do it. And this is where y'all come in. Because you're all thought leaders. You're all here for a purpose. You're intellectually stimulated. And we need to educate government agencies on how to use this technology, on the benefits of the technology. We need to show them that this model works. We need to give them suggestions and feedback, and we need to demand it. We can no longer stand for the status quo. but we must embrace these technologies to do an amazing work, and the time is now. And so I encourage you all to use your knowledge, use your intellectual capabilities, and help solve some of your government challenges. Because Manor had 34 employees, but when we stood up a site, we had 66 countries that participated. And that's powerful. Now imagine replicating that to communities across the globe, incentivizing participation, and really engaging constituents in the process. There's a reason why people don't vote. There's a reason why people come to council meetings one time and they never come back. It's because they're not engaged. We must engage our constituents. We must make government less bureaucratic or bureaucrazy, and we must make this process fun. And I hope that you will all go back and do the same. I thank you for your time.
No, before that. Before, actually, we have a little moment. But actually, can you just help me with one moment? When you and I talked about this at the very beginning, you gave me actually a very tangible example. Because one of the questions is you can crowdsource ideas all day long, right? But how do you know if they're good ideas? And how do they become actionable ideas? So you actually gave me a great example about people wanting the suggestion of outlawing texting while driving.
That's
right.
right.
Is that the example?
That's right.
So can you just walk us through? Because I've told that story a couple times,
Sure.
but I'm not sure if I've told it as accurately.
So an idea in Manor was to ban texting while driving. And it's a great idea. But one of the principles of any time you collect an idea from someone is who's going to go and research this and make it happen. And normally, if an employee has an idea, the boss says, hey, that's great, go do it. And that's not a very effective system. So with the texting while driving idea, the workload was completely distributed. So someone suggested, I think you should ban texting while driving. And other individuals that are involved in this social network submitted a copy of the City of Austin's ordinance. They submitted, which saves us $125 an hour in legal fees as a city, which is pretty substantial, and submitted statistics that backed up the importance of doing that. And so when the city goes to consider this, they no longer have a concept, which is important. They no longer have a concept that's rated by votes alone. They now have a fully implementable solution with an ordinance and stats backing it to consider, which breaks down the complexity of who's going to do the work. Because in government, being an ex-government employee myself, whenever innovation becomes a part of the job description, it breaks down. It ceases to exist. If you delegate innovation, it doesn't work, especially in a government setting. So employees need to understand that the process is distributed, and that's a fantastic example of how that can happen.
And I think the other example that you gave me, which was helpful too, is that just soliciting idea. If you're an agency, right? We talked about some of the federal government open innovation agencies that have been created. It then almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy to close that down, because the more ideas you give me, the more I have to go and then take on.
That's right.
So it's like almost that I don't want any more ideas. So I think what was really interesting about this conversation, I just want to make sure I close that loop on that. It's not just about idea submission. It's also about idea shaping. It's about micro-tasking these things into little things that we can each take on. And it's about contributing not just the idea, but also the pieces along the way and potentially the eventual solution.
Exactly.
That's right. Is to me the bigger thing. So with that, actually, we've got one more little piece of news, which is your slide of the... Wait, one more thing. Dustin, when we first approached him, actually, he was city manager at Manor, but he had been working with a company called Spigit to create some of the infrastructure and technology of the Manor Labs experience that he was talking a little bit about. And as we had this whole discussion, he went back to the folks at Spigit and said, hey, how about if we create something specifically just for TEDx Austin? And so with that, they have actually created, do we have a picture of it? Ideas for TEDx Austin.
So
did you want to explain it?
Yeah. So the goal of this site is to bring more action to the ideas that come out of TEDx Austin. So there's a lot of new thoughts, a lot of new concepts that you all have, and you've heard some amazing examples and some amazing stories. And the goal is, this is a site where you can submit your ideas, where you can work as a community, as a social network, to make these ideas more actionable. Because at the end of most conferences, everyone leaves very motivated, right? Very motivated. I'm pumped up now. But what happens? A week later, it's great, things start to falter. This is a social network designed to continue to work on these concepts, these ideas. If you have an idea worth sharing, this is the site that you share it at. And as a community and as a social network, you can work with one another to make these ideas more actionable. and ultimately with the end goal of creating some concept and some solution that can really revolutionize the world, an idea worth sharing.
So much of, I'm not mic'd or anything, I think I've got a loud enough voice. So much of what we've talked about as far as having a conversation, taking it off of Twitter and Facebook and talking about these are all grand and great ideas, but how are we going to act on them? We're hoping we can start here with our own set of micro actions. So this is linked directly to the site. We'll definitely be letting you guys know about it. We're going to be working with Dustin. We'll see. Yeah, there you go. So we'll definitely be... Oh, and he added the right clever boy. So we'll be definitely letting y'all know about this. And the cool thing is, the thing I think is fantastic is some of the speakers that y'all saw up here today, and we'll probably tap those of you in the audience who were speakers before and last year, we'll probably tap y'all too. It's a great way to continue the conversation with some of the speakers that you've seen up here as well. Robin's already talked about how, she'll talk about food, and we'll be able to talk about some of the different things that we've touched on and extend the conversation, see about micro actions we can take as a TEDx Austin community and how we can actually affect our city even more. So,
yeah, I think that, again, the invitation here is we've populated it just barely. Dustin and his team have set up actually a demonstration upstairs. It's on this side, right? With a couple of computers that you guys want to start playing around with it. I will tell you it's bare bones right now. We put in the issues that were some of the topics from the discussion today. We've also put in TEDx Austin as a topic area in case you guys would like to elaborate on things that could be, considered for 2012 or things that could happen between now and 2012. But it's just barely begun. Stacy's just sort of gotten her hands on it and is ready to start playing with it. But we think it's a great opportunity just to get you guys involved. And we are going to look for sponsors for each of those areas. So we have talked to Robin O'Brien, and there's one about fixing the industrial food system or restoring the integrity of the industrial food system. And she's actually going to be monitoring. So if you guys submit ideas, she will actually be part of that conversation and see what we come up with and be involved in that discussion. We've talked to Lucia Athens, who is the new Chief of Sustainability, or Chief Sustainability Officer, who's here actually with us today, about adding a conversation around sustainable action and awareness building within Austin. So we're going to find champions for each of these areas too, so that they are not just a big black hole that you are throwing your energy and ideas into, but we're actually going to move it forward. So we're so grateful,
yes,
Dustin, and very
you.
excited that this is just, again, the beginning of right now, not the end of right now, so don't be sad.
That's right. And everyone here will receive an email invitation, probably by early next week, from the system saying, hey, you're invited to participate. For those of you that are watching via the live stream, the site will be completely open in about a week, and you'll be able to participate as well. But right now, to be in beta for everyone in the room. And so look for that invitation, and there's information on the website as well.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
Yay.
All right.